Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm Coach Wilena McGee, RNBSN, your coach, your NEMT startup coach and business strategist. Today, I'm sitting down with Kristen Parker, CLFP, National Sales Director at Koala Capital Group, for a practical conversation about funding, financial preparation, and what transportation founders really need to understand before trying to finance vehicles and scale. This is such an important conversation because so many people are excited about getting started in transportation, but they do not always understand what lenders are looking for, what financial preparation should already be in place, or how to think strategically about startup capital without creating unnecessary pressure on your business. So in today's discussion, stay with us because we're going to talk about what equipment financing is, how it works for transportation companies, what lenders evaluate first, common mistakes new founders make, personal credit versus business credit, what documents founders should have in place before applying, the role of business plans and projections, my personal favorite, and the difference between equipment financing, leasing, and working capital, and when it may be time to scale by financing additional vehicles. So with all of that, Kristen, I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. What a pleasure. And thank you for inviting me to share this time with your listeners and your clients and just the community in general.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and who you are and how you are helping your community?
Yes, definitely. Kristen Parker, and I began my career basically in commercial financing about 16 years ago. And financing might not sound real sexy, but it is very essential. I love it because I love to help entrepreneurs with their business and help realize their goals and their dreams. And it's near and dear to my heart, the industry in general, and then especially the non-emergency transportation industry is very special to me.
I love that. I love that. And I'm there with you after having to close down my business and, my initial startup, non-emergency medical transportation startup. I did so many things backwards that when I learned about financing and how I could have saved myself so many mistakes if I just would have planned properly and went into the business correctly with the plan. And I think I probably would have still been in business today. So I appreciate your time, and I know our community is definitely going to love this. And so one of the first questions I would love to ask you, because I really do get this all the time, for our listeners who may not be familiar with equipment financing, could you explain what that is and how it typically works for transportation businesses?
So basically, financing allows you to acquire your vehicle or your equipment so that you can get out on the road and start making money. It really allows them to retain their startup capital, which is essential. Because as you know, starting a new business, there are emergencies that are going to come up, and even non-emergencies. Such as, marketing or hiring a driver or insurance. That's a huge one as well. So the more capital you can keep for your startup expenses in your bank account, the better. And that'll really help you grow.
Absolutely. So with the equipment financing, what I get a lot of times is that people just want to go out and get a loan for the van, new entrepreneurs. They say, oh, I just want to get the van. And I'm like, well, you're going to need capital too. And I try to explain to them what the difference between just getting an equipment loan versus, getting that startup and capital loan, I guess together. Is there a big difference? Do banks look at that differently, or does financing companies like yours look at that differently?
So, as far as working capital goes, we do offer that as a product, but we don't offer that to startups. So,
Okay.
what working capital goes off of is the most recent business bank statements. And working capital is simply a loan against your future receivables. So it's not possible to do that for startups. So I really encourage the startups to have a pretty good savings account set up already if they can. And I know that probably 99% of your clients are coming from the medical industry somehow or the
Mhm.
transportation industry. So somewhere along the lines, as they're thinking about starting up their NEMT business, hopefully they're socking some money away so that they can have those startup reserves that they may need. Now, our working capital programs, we can start to look at new businesses after they've been in business for up to 6 months and generating at least $20,000 through their business bank account per month pretty consistently. And at that point, we can look at lending them cash. But in the
Oh,
meantime, we can definitely get them on the road with their vehicle, with wheelchairs, with stretchers, with all kinds of equipment. We can even finance software sometimes. So the routing software and the programs that come along with it. There are many different things we can do to help new businesses get on the road and start generating their revenues.
okay. So your company, you can finance the equipment for them along with like their technology in some instances in order to
Yes.
get them going. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what do you see as far as um, these founders when they are looking for vehicle financing? What are the key factors that lenders are evaluating first that
Mhm.
you got?
So for startups, really, we look first and foremost at personal credit. So it goes like this: personal credit, time in business, business credit, and cash reserves. Now, the time in business and the business credit won't come into play for your startup companies. This type of financing is definitely going to establish your business credit. So in this case, in the brand new business realm, we look very heavily on personal credit. And we don't just look at the score, because I talk a lot to people who are looking for financing, especially startups, and they'll say, I have a 750 credit score. That's great, but we don't just look at the score. So we look at what type of credit they currently have and have had in the past. We look at how much they have been extended, how much they're using. We look a lot at their revolving credit that they're using. Hopefully, it's under 30%. We look to see if they've had installment balance history, such as car loans, and we look to see how they've been paying on those. So, yes, you may have a 750, but if you have one credit card for $1,200 that you just opened in December of 2025, that's not a credit. So I do want to caution, our first time business owners on that realm as well. So in that case, what we do look at the business or the personal credit. We also look at the cash reserves, because I do have some really aggressively priced programs for those who have strong personal credit and have good, strong cash reserves. Those reserves might not have to go towards the financing, but the lenders want to see that you have it there. They want to see that you're setting yourself up for success.
That's it. So that 20% of the loan rule, like if you want to borrow 100,000, have 20,000 in reserve.
That's not bad. That's not a bad comparison. For startups, we typically encourage you to be ready to put down 10 to maybe 30% of the vehicle cost.
Yeah.
And that could just be your first and last month's payments. It could be a security deposit. It could just be money down to get you into that better priced program. So yeah, we do have lots of options for people who have lots of backgrounds and lots of challenges.
Yeah, that's awesome because talking about the different type of programs that you have, and what's having for me, having to explain to my students to make sure they have that cash reserve. If they don't have like equity in their home or anything like that, they want to have that cash reserve. What kind of mistakes do you, and sometimes they listen and sometimes they don't. So my question is, what mistakes do you see most often happening that these startups are doing?
I think we kind of touched on it already, and that is outlaying your startup reserves for vehicle or equipment purposes when financing is a perfectly viable option. If financing is an option, I always say utilize other people's money if you can, as much as possible. And this will keep your reserves intact for emergencies, and it'll also build your business credit. I also see new business owners thinking that brand new vehicles are the only way to go. And I just encourage them to possibly, look into quality used vehicles. There are many of those out there. It'll still get you on the road. It'll still make you look good to your customers, but then your outlay is going to be lower. Your monthly expenses could be lower also. Just some things to consider when getting started.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is so true because I tell them all the time that if you have the money, I always go back to this example. I had someone call me who had just literally gotten a settlement for like $400,000, and he calls me. He wants me to coach him, and he's like, I've already got 3 wheelchair vehicles and blah blah blah. And my son was so upset with me because I was like, oh no. I was like, no. I'm like, you're using your money. Like you have all that money for cash reserve and you're using your money for all those type of vehicles. You're going to need every bit of that $300,000 for
Yeah.
equipment if you're getting stretcher vehicles and wheelchair vehicles and all that. And I'm like, why are you using your money? So I do see that quite frequently as individuals doing like I tried to do and trying to do it myself instead of just fixing the personal credit, you know, and I think about it, I'm like, if I would have just taken that same $10,000 that I put down on that vehicle the first time around and just paid off all my debt, I
Yeah.
would have gotten a better interest rate and better terms, you know?
There's tremendous value in personal credit. I think it's the best investment you can make, really, is in your personal credit. Well, in yourself in general, as you know, Coach Willina. But in your personal credit is going to either support you or haunt you in pretty much everything you do.
That's right. That's right. I found that out, because for me, even coming into this business, I had to, because I filed bankruptcy, I've had to bootstrap this business. I've had to put out everything for it because I can't get the financing yet. So it has made it even more challenging because, like, I want need infusions of credit, but it becomes again more challenging because you have to have that steady stream of revenue monthly, and sometimes you might have a bad month. So
And yeah, I think it's wonderful that you shared that with everybody. People make mistakes. My credit hasn't always been perfect either. And that's not to say that we can't get you the financing that you need. So once again, we do look at the credit depth. We do look at how you're doing now, how you've been doing the past few years. If you had some hiccups a couple years ago, and since then you've been steady and strong and building in a nice, safe way your credit, we do have programs for you. We really have programs for just about anyone. Now, this is mainly with time and business deals. For anyone that's not currently in a bankruptcy or past due child support, with the right blend of credit, cash, and collateral, we can really put together just about anything for somebody, as long as they're not in an open bankruptcy, no recent defaults on auto loans. And like I said, the child support is a big one too for lenders.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's nice to know because I didn't even know that, but that can sneak up on a lot of individuals,
Sure,
unfortunately.
sure.
Yeah. And that can
And they
harm them.
don't even know about it sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
another. I take a real consultative approach in credit and in financing with my newer customers. I'll take a look at their credit and I'll coach them. I'll let them know what we see. They may not even be aware of it. Maybe it's been taken care of. Maybe it was paid 3 years ago. The collection agencies are real savvy. So what they'll do is they'll buy a portfolio from a lender, and the debt might have already been settled for an
Mm.
individual, but that collection agency will buy the portfolio, the debt portfolio, and they will slap the debt right back on the customer's credit
Yes.
years
Yes.
later.
Yes.
It's horrible. It's really frustrating for people who really have a good handle on their credit. Maybe they did get a collection notice, they paid it right away, but the company didn't record it accurately. So I can let them know what we're seeing. I can let them know what's important to our lending partners, and how to address that and probably clean that up, or show proof that they paid it. So yeah, we really want to help people through this process and take more of a consultative approach.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have right now the same situation. I filed back bankruptcy. I think it was in 2022, I believe. And I have a company right now that is trying to put back on
Yeah,
a bill that was part of the settlement.
yeah.
And so, I just have to basically I call my attorney and tell them to send a letter to them, and it's a hassle, but you got to get them to take it back off. When I
You do.
called them directly, they were like, "Well, you could just pay it." And I was like, "Why would I just pay it?"
I
I was just
consider credit concerns. I consider those like like cavities. They're not going to go away on their own. You have to address it.
Yes, you
It's going to cause
do.
you pain if you don't.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I was like, I knew something happened because my credit score kept going and going and going up. And I was like, okay, we're doing good. And then all of a sudden I saw this huge dip and I was like, oh no.
What
So,
happened? Yeah,
but they
yeah.
do. I'm glad you said that, because you have to keep an eye on that. And so you touched on it a little bit about the documentation and how you're coaching individuals. Tell us about what type of documentation you want to prepare for before you get to the lender.
So for our purposes, for our startup business programs, I don't even need them to have a legal business entity filed with the state. Yeah, I don't need an FEIN number quite yet. Really, all we need is just our one-page e-application. I'll email that to the customer. They'll fill it out as best they can, and I'll take a look at their credit. Now, we do soft inquiries on Experian and Equifax, so our views do not ding your credit. We want to help your credit. We don't want to hurt it. So that is the first step. And then based on the type of, uh, debt experience we see and what they're looking for and how much they're looking for, I can get some term options over to them and let them know if I think that they're even approvable at this point. If they're not, then we kind of do some consulting on their credit. If they are, I get the term options over to them. They decide on a term, 24 through 60 months typically. Typically, only your first and last month's payments are due upfront, plus doc and title fees if it's a vehicle. Sometimes, in some instances, it's going to be a little more, like I said, 10 to maybe 30%. but I'll get those term options to you before we even present you to underwriting. Once we decide on a term, I'll send over a proposal agreement, and then I do a real strong write-up, and then I send your file to underwriting.
Okay.
While we at Koala Capital Group we do direct lending. We are a direct lender. But if it doesn't fit in-house, and some of these startup programs just don't fit in-house quite yet, or I can get them better pricing somewhere else, then we have, over 30 different lending partners, depending upon the time of business, the industry, the personal and the business credit, all those things combined. I've got, several dozens of other options that we can look at to get you into a program that fits for you and your business.
Wow, that's great. So, I mean, it's like, it sounds like it's a really good roadmap so they can get the vehicle financing and the equipment financing and then be in business for just like 6 months or so and possibly transition to get some startup assistance. Is that right?
Possibly get some a cash injection. Yes,
Cash injection.
possibly. But in the meantime, and our customers are growing. They're growing quickly. Sometimes they need another van within 2 months. We
Mhm.
do have additional programs we can get them into if their ramp up is a lot faster than they thought.
Wow, that's great.
Mhm.
That's really great. So I know you answered this a little bit. You said that you just, in some cases, you just need the LLC, the EIN in order to present them and you do the write up. So when working with your company, do they really need a business plan and financial plan?
Oh, that's a great question, but let me back up a little bit because that is just for the initial application stage. So by the
Okay.
time we do get to the underwriting stage, they're going to want to have a business. I only do commercial lending, so they're going to want to have a business, either a DBA or an LLC filed or a corporation filed. They're gonna want to have an EIN number. Sometimes I can get them into underwriting even before they get that. Maybe they're waiting for it in the mail. But yes, they do need their business entity set up before I send them to underwriting.
Got you. So they can apply based on personal credit, what you see, and then as you move them forward to underwriting, then underwriting is going to say, okay, now give me your documents. So
Right.
they can get an idea of what they're working with and what they're going to need before they gotcha. Okay, that's awesome. So will they need that business plan and financial projections for
Our
underwriting to do?
programs, I do strongly suggest that they have at least their projections in place. Okay. At least know how much you plan to make per vehicle per month, how much money that's going to bring in through your account, and when. Because if you have net, 45, 60 days, you're going to be playing a little bit of catch up. So again, make sure you've got some good reserves to get you through the first couple of months until if you're not doing private pay until you're paid. And I don't really think any of our programs require a business plan,
Okay.
as far as presenting a business plan with their
But
package
the,
to underwriting.
but the
Um,
projection.
I do like to have that conversation with them up front for many reasons, as far as the projections go. We're going to want to make sure that they're realistic about what they feel that they're going to be making. If they think they're going to be making $60,000 per vehicle just starting out, that's not realistic. And then also, if they're only going to do this part time and
Mhm.
plan on bringing in $3,000 a month with this vehicle, that might not be very realistic either.
Mhm.
Because you're going to have full insurance costs, you're going to have a full vehicle payment cost. So, by establishing the projections, we can kind of back into a comfortable payment for the customer. Maybe they wanted to finance a brand new vehicle at $75,000, but maybe they need their payment to be under 2 grand.
Mhm.
So we work with that. And maybe, like I said, a quality used vehicle might be best to start to keep them in their budget and get them on the road making money.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that that's one of the things that I work with is my clients is the understanding on the financial projections that there is a ramp up time that
Mhm.
it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, depending on how much time you have to invest in building your business. So again, having that cash reserve to get you through those months is priority. You have to have that.
Yes.
So love that. So can you tell me, I know we talked a little bit about everything, but just to give the community a clear explanation, can you tell us a little bit about the difference between equipment financing,
Mhm.
leasing, and working capital, and when each option might make sense for a transportation company?
Yeah, good questions. So equipment financing and leasing, we consider it very similar in some ways. When people hear about leasing, they're typically thinking, oh, somebody's going to get me into a consumer car lease with a big residual at the end, which I fell for when I was a lot younger. Our programs are called equipment finance agreements. Okay. And what that means is it's a fixed payment for a fixed term per month until the end of the term. At the end of the term, there could be a $0 buyout. It could be $1. It could be $101, depending upon the state that you're doing your business in. But those the debt experiences that we build, the programs that we offer, they're going to build the business credit. Okay. Like I said, we write the equipment finance agreements. They're similar to a lease in that it is a fixed term with a fixed payment. And there could be some significant tax benefits to this as opposed to a traditional bank loan, if you
Mm,
can get a traditional bank loan as a startup.
mhm.
Um, you could, since it's written more like a rental agreement, you could write off the full monthly payment each month, just like any other business expense. And that what that'll end up doing is lowering your overall income tax exposure.
Wow, that's what the leasing option with
That's
the
what the equipment finance agreement slash leasing option could do for you. Um, Whereas a traditional loan, you're writing off the interest, it goes right onto your balance sheet as an asset. It's just a different way of,
wow.
of paying taxes.
So, okay, so so they're elite. So, okay, I'm wrapping my head around it. So I'm like, I want one of these. Okay.
Everybody wants lower taxes, right?
That's it. That's it. Like this is good stuff right here. So instead of purchasing it as um a vehicle purchase on your for as a traditional bank loan, you
Yes.
can get an equipment finance lease agreement with the buy it have a buyout, but depending on the state, it might be $100 or something like that, but
Right.
it's fixed monthly payments for an allotted amount of time. So at the end, it's really yours, and you get to
Correct.
out.
Yes. At the end, the lien will be released by the lender, and the title is released to you in the business name. Now you have an asset. Now you
That
can sell it.
that's why
Now
I
you
keep saying, look, oh, look, because I always saying that vehicle is a liability until it's making.
no, it's absolutely an asset. It works for you. You make money with it.
Look,
Yes.
that's the way to do it is to lease it so you can write it off. Look, I'm calling everybody. I love that. That okay, that is so good. Okay, so let's see. So and this is one of the questions that I have with clients, because sometimes I have one client in Washington. Well, both of my clients in Washington scaled so fast that it actually scared me, because I was like, man, I was like, I don't know. They're like, I'm getting this amount of trips and this, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. So this is a question that'll help me. What should a operator, a provider, how should they consider when it's time to actually scale?
So I get that question a lot, and you certainly do not want to overextend. You don't want to try and ramp up too quickly. You definitely want to be smart about it. What I would recommend, a couple of different things. If you're turning away business, if you're just too busy, you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the equipment, you don't have the manpower to satisfy potential new contracts, it's time to move forward and add to your fleet and add to your people and your drivers. The rule of thumb that I typically see is once you are making 3 times as much money per month as it's costing you to operate that vehicle, 2 to 3 times, that's a good time to add to your fleet. That's a good solid, you've got some contracts under your belt, you've got some private pay, hopefully, and you've got some steady income with this one vehicle, and it's only going to grow from there. That's when I would really suggest somebody start seriously looking at, if they haven't already, looking at adding.
That's right. That's right. I think that from the business planning side too, that adds up, because um, until you're working at capacity, and steadily working at capacity with 12 to, I don't know, if self-pay, if you're doing 6 to 8 trips per day, self-pay, you're probably at capacity. If you're doing broker trips, you're going to have more volume. You're going to need more trips per day. But once you're meeting that break even, and you're starting to see that revenue, then it's probably safer to scale from that side of it. But if you're only taking 2 or 3 trips and somebody's promised you a contract, or
Mhm.
I'm like, get it in writing.
Yeah.
Give it in
Yeah.
writing.
Yes.
That's awesome. So I know that this has been some great questions asked and answered. And so I wanted to ask you, before we wrapped up, because we talked about preparation, we talked about funding, and we talked about growth, to make this even more practical for our community, I'd love to close with this final question. If you could give 3 key financial recommendations to someone starting a transportation business today, what would they be?
Hmm. Okay. Great questions. I would say if you're going into business with partners, let's talk about that. Um,
Ooh,
yes,
ooh,
I encourage it because of the support, the morale boost, the potential for additional revenue, of course, sharing the load. But have the difficult conversation with that person or people early about their personal credit. It's a difficult conversation to have, but I'll tell you what's more difficult: trying to apply for financing and finding out that somebody's got, 475 credit score. And then what do? You've already, formed your articles, and that person's tied to the business. So know what you're getting into as far as your partners, because this is a lifetime decision. Starting a business, it will affect the rest of your life. It will also affect your relationships. So if somebody brings, extra cash to the table, or they bring expertise to the table, there are different ways to structure your business. And I just encourage people to take a look at that before getting too far in the process.
that is great. Go ahead.
I would also say I can't say enough about building the cash reserves. That's really going to be your friend Okay. Don't try and start a business like this, which is so crucial to the community and to people and affects people's lives out there. To try it on a shoestring budget. It's, as you mentioned, there's going to be ramp up time. There's going to be time. So maybe pull back the reins a little bit and get a little bit more cash in your pocket to make you feel more secure. And that way you're not going to be panicking if you have a mechanical issue or if you have a driver quit, or
Mhm.
you need training. So I would encourage that definitely. And then I guess the third one, utilize other people's money. It can be a game changer for staying power in this industry. Now, of course, I have a vested interest in that because that's what I do for a living. But I do encourage you to use your credit wisely, use your credit, and you're just going to be so successful.
Yeah, those are some great points. I mean, all of them are fantastic points. It is so imperative. I think you spoke on everything that happened to me: loss of
Oh,
drivers, mechanical issues, no
I'm
cash reserve.
sorry.
And listen, and then not using my credit. I mean, I started it with a great credit score, but because I was afraid, oh, I can't get a business loan, or I can't get a SBA loan, or I can't get financing through a finance company, I took out micro loans. I had no understanding, and like killed
Yes.
me. And so I think, having this conversation again is so imperative. So don't try to bootstrap it. Don't try to do it on the shoestrings where you don't have any cash reserve. And it's like hood trying to trying to create a business for, just you can't do it. You have
Those
to.
those issue those issues creep up on you fast.
Yes.
If I could, Wilina, I did forget to mention with regard to credit. Now, our programs will only build your business credit. They will not report to your personal credit
That's
unless
awesome.
there's, in the case of a default, which nobody wants to foresee or nobody wants to plan for or see. But our programs do not report to your personal credit. So if you're looking for a home loan, if you're looking to restructure some of your credit cards, this debt experience will not affect that negatively. It's just a good way to separate your business and your personal expenses. And I
That's
highly recommend, yeah, the business financing portion.
That's awesome. Yeah, because that's definitely, that's not even something that I consider, because a lot of times if you take out like commercial loans, they attach that to your home and all that kind of thing. And so it ties
Yeah.
up your credit, ties it up. So yeah, I appreciate this conversation, Kristen. It has been
Right.
great. And finally, I just want to ask, how can our community reach you, so to help take advantage of some of these offers that you have?
Well, we've got koalacapitalgroup.com. I can be reached at Kristen@koalacapitalgroup.com. We also have our founder who started Koala Capital Group, developed what he calls a Joey brand, and that's non-emergency, nemtfunding.com. Anyone can go to that website and apply directly online. It'll come to us and be processed.
Awesome. Yeah, that's where I send all my clients. I'm like, go to this one. So thank you so much for helping my clients and working with them and doing what you can and helping them, lead them in the right direction too. So I do want to tell you a big thank you for that
Oh,
too.
I really appreciate you inviting me. Well, this has been a blast. Thank you so much. And thanks for
Thank
everything you do for the industry. It's
you.
such a wonderful industry and it's going nowhere but up.
All the way up. Look, we bringing this thing up. We're gonna make it fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. And for all of you all who are on YouTube or Facebook, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next go round. Shalom.